Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leader Self podcast. I am Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I'm really excited about today's topic, the best ways to get super visible, super quick. And yes, we are talking Usain Bolt kind of quick, as opposed to, the way that I run potentially for any kind of public transport. And actually, you'd be surprised on how quickly that actually is. When I was working in London, I remember rocking up in the city when I was about 21, 22. And I would look at people getting on the tube. And the tube in London, for those of you who haven't been on it, is, Americans among us will call this a subway. But the tube in London, for those of you who have not been on it, is kind of, it's kind of a rite of passage. Okay. So you walk up to the tube station, and if you go during commuter hour, there are tons and tons of people, and everyone generally is very angry about the fact they're having to get on public transport, about the fact they're having to go to work. They try and avoid eye contact with everybody. And I remember being hugely amused when I first turned up in London, because there was a tube every 3 minutes. Okay, so every 3 minutes there's a tube or a bus. Public transport in London is phenomenal, okay? And so I remember walking to the tube station in the mornings and kind of giggling to myself, because I'd come from like Hick Town in the middle of nowhere. And I found it really funny that everyone was getting so stressed. They're like, oh my God, if I miss this tube, I'm going to have to wait a whole 2 minutes and 30 seconds for another one. And I remember thinking, how busy can you possibly be that 2 minutes and 30 seconds is really going to make that much of a difference to you? Really. And the reality was that about 5 years later, I kind of became that person. I was like, oh my God, I am that person that actually cares that if I do not get this tube, 2 minutes and 30 seconds will go past until I can get the next one. And, my entire day will be thrown out. It's one of the reasons that I'm quite glad that I left the corporate world. I think waiting for the tube would have possibly given me some kind of illness / heart attack at some point in time. So today we're talking about getting super visible, because as we know, getting visible equals building your audience, which equals an engaged tribe or an engaged fan base, which equals ultimately sales. So I was thinking about the idea for this podcast. I was doing a group intensive recently at a lovely hotel in London called the Langham. And I was very, very fortunate. I hold an awful lot of intensives there, so they quite like me as a customer. I like to think, because I'm a little bit different, I turn up in flip-flops. The rest of their clientele is very high-end. And I sort of rock up in my flip-flops and very nice to everybody. And they upgraded me to an executive suite. I was very, very excited by this. I was like, wow, never been in an executive suite here before. And it had a very nice bathroom, and the bed could fit in like 10 people. And obviously it was just me, so a little bit wasted given that I'm only 5'3". But whatever. Anyway, after the intensive had finished, it was about 11 o'clock at night, and I'd been, chatting away on the phone to some of my friends on WhatsApp. And I'd finally decided that I was going to get into bed and watch one of the, not one, but two televisions in the room. So I sat in the bed and I'm looking through all of the channels, and I came across this program that I'd actually never ever watched before called Made in Chelsea. Now, some of you might be thinking, Jess, how on earth have you never ever watched Made in Chelsea? But it's just one of those things that's never really come up for me. And so I was watching this program and honestly, I was addicted. I came home the day after and I was like, can you get this on Netflix? Like, how do you watch those replays? Because it was genuinely so interesting. And it brought up this whole idea for me around visibility. And the reason it brought up this idea around visibility was because I started thinking, well, why are people so interested, including myself, why are people so interested in the lives of these just normal humans, right? They're not celebrities until the show kind of goes out. So you get new people presumably every season, and they go in and they're not famous. And then suddenly they are famous, and they are people that people want to have their photos taken with in clubs and all this kind of thing. And I was looking at what had come before, and I thought, okay, well, we had like the Real Housewives of insert any county here. We had The Only Way is Essex. We had the Kardashians. And I kind of looked at it and I thought, well, actually humans are really interested in real life. We're interested in reality. And when we're interested in something, we want to consume more. Okay, we want to consume more content. And it began making me think about the strategies that we could actually be using to make ourselves more visible without getting massively overwhelmed. So that's what we're talking about today, how to ramp up your visibility in real time without getting massively overwhelmed, without having to create tons and tons and tons of new content, and making sure that you're doing it in the right way, because obviously the right visibility will equal sales and the wrong visibility will, well, it will not necessarily work out massively well for you, okay? So the first thing to think about when we're looking at visibility is obviously your message, because visibility doesn't work if you're not putting out the right message, if you're not putting out who you really want to work with, what you want to help them with, and if you're not putting out what you actually stand for. And the thing that's so interesting about reality TV is that the people who are on reality television are completely, I would like to say, unfiltered. However, I'm aware that there are some elements to that are certainly scripted, or scenarios that are definitely kind of fabricated to just make good television. But the reason that we watch it, the reason we get so into it, is because people have opinions and they express opinions. And sometimes their opinions are things that we agree with, and sometimes they're things that we disagree with, and sometimes they're things that cause drama or controversy. And so actually, when you're thinking about getting visible, you've really got to think about, what is your message? What makes you stand out? What are the things that you stand for? And what are the things that you are completely and utterly against? And when you're getting visible, it's your job to express opinions as often as possible, because people really need to know what side of the fence you sit on when it comes to how you build an email list, or how you decide to sell on a coaching call, or how you decide to deliver to your audience, or what you really think about the combination of pasta and pickled onions as a meal. FYI, I stand on they are absolutely amazing and you should make it for every single dinner party on that front. But, we digress. Now, the second thing that you need to look at when you're looking at visibility is about your network and how you can leverage your existing network. Now, I know a lot of people who are going out and thinking about getting visible automatically think about cold traffic. Who can I get in front of? How can I do this? And they immediately jump to paid advertising, they jump to paid shout outs, they jump to participating on telesummits or giveaways or things that potentially put them in front of a cold audience that they're having to do a lot of work to convert later on. The thing that I'd like to flip on its head is that actually you could get a lot more visible in a way quicker amount of time without getting overwhelmed, simply by leveraging the network that you already have and leveraging your existing community and relationships. So one of the things that you could do is ask your audience, or ask influencers that you have a great relationship with, to refer people to you or to your community or to your email list in return for something super valuable. So for example, you might be running a free challenge in your Facebook group, or you might be running a free piece of live training. Or you might even offer to an influencer that you know who covers one particular area. So for example, if we're looking at me in this instance, I specialize in sales. If I had somebody who came to me and said, look, Jess, I'd love to run a workshop for your audience on, I don't know, PR, then I'd love that, because it's adding extra value to my audience without them having to go anywhere. They're not having to go and source that information for themselves. So what you can do is you can leverage that existing network, and you can actually ask your audience, you can ask influencers to refer people to you for something that is going to bring their audience value, or to bring their peers or friends value, and help them learn something, or help give them some kind of thing that's amazing in return for just simply showing up. And that actually works really, really well. So if you're looking for a quick way to get visible and you're thinking, well, actually, I want to do it the quickest way possible, look at what you already have. Ask your audience to share your Facebook group. Ask them to recommend people. Ask them to send people the link. Ask your list of email subscribers to refer people to your email list for something for free. You could even run it as a competition and really incentivize people to get your brand super visible without you actually having to do that much work. Or like I say, you can reach out to influencers that you already have a relationship with. You can offer them something that's valuable to them and their audience for free in exchange just for getting your name out there, just for being associated with their brand, just for being able to help their audience. And actually that is a win-win. They don't have to create another piece of content. Their audience gets something that's extremely valuable. And you get access to a warm audience who's super receptive because they now see you as the expert in a specific area. The second thing that you can look at is PR. Now, I've had a lot of success with PR, and I'm somebody who is a massive advocate of the PR route because I believe that honestly, PR is a really, really easy way to get your thoughts, opinions, and information out into the world in a way that positions you as the expert and actually makes it really easy to have lifetime content. What I mean by that is content that lives past the 24 hours that it would exist in the Facebook newsfeed. All right. Facebook is really, really good at making a piece of content last for 24 hours, potentially 48 if it's something that's getting a ton of engagement, but not really that much longer. Whereas if you write an amazing article for a big publication, that article is going to live forever. The SEO on it is going to be there always. And that's not the same when you're writing it on a social media platform. So if you're looking to get visible quickly, PR is a slightly longer route depending on which angle you take. So if you're looking to, for example, get published in a large industry-based magazine, be aware that they're probably going to have a couple of months lead time to get your articles in to actually get you published. But other things with regards to PR are a lot quicker. TV appearances. For example, recently I've been on Channel 5 News here in the UK and Good Morning Britain. And both of them contacted me less than 24 hours beforehand and said, hey, we're talking about this subject tomorrow. Would you mind coming to the studio and talking about it with us? In the case of Channel 5 News, it was actually 2.5 hours notice that I had before I was whizzing up to London to get ready to talk about the gender pay gap, for example. So TV can be a lot quicker. And that's because TV as a platform picks up on news much faster. They have to be reporting everything as it's happening. It has to be, again, this real-time concept because people love real time. We love reality. We love knowing what's going on in the here and now. So PR can be an awesome way to get you visible. And some of the main things that I use for PR have been things like TV appearances, radio appearances, guest blogging, being featured on other people's podcasts, interviewing amazing people on my own podcast, looking at being featured in magazines. I've had my book featured as a recommended read for an industry publication. There are lots and lots and lots of ways that you can get great PR and get featured to an audience who, again, will be warm, who will be receptive, and who will want to engage with you. So very recently, one of the most fun pieces of PR that I got to do was Psychology's magazine. I've been a fan of Psychology's magazine for literally years. I remember subscribing to them back when I was at university, and I loved their articles, and used to get really, really obsessed with reading all of the things that made us as humans tick. And so a few weeks ago, I was lucky enough to be asked to do a Facebook Live for Psychology's magazine business page and talk about buyer behaviors and spending habits and how people can understand what shops, what retailers are doing to get them to buy more stuff, basically. And so I was really fortunate to do this Facebook Live. It was amazing. It was like dream moment come true because I love Psychology's magazine, couldn't wait to talk to their audience. And actually it was such a great piece of PR. Within a couple of hours, over 4,500 people had actually watched the video. And I was getting emails, I was getting people joining my Facebook group, I was getting people going to my website and downloading different opt-ins who had seen what I was talking about, who thought it was really interesting, and who wanted to learn more. So you can get some amazing, amazing results. Another example of a PR win is an article that I wrote. You can still search for it. It's on Huffington Post, called How Facebook Groups Changed My Life. And I wrote this article probably, I think it was about a year and a half ago now. And I wrote it because when I left corporate and started my business, there were genuinely about 5 Facebook groups that I was in that really helped me navigate the entrepreneurial journey. And so I wrote about these groups and I explained what was great about them. I explained why they were the top ones that had really helped support my journey. And within 24 hours of writing that article and having it published on the Huffington Post website, my own Facebook group had doubled. Okay, we'd added over 750 new members literally overnight due to this one article because it was something that was topical. it was something that was relevant, and it was something that was really working and that was of interest. Again, we're talking real time, for the audience who were reading the business section and the entrepreneurship section of the Huffington Post at that particular time. So PR, again, can be a great way to get visible fast, especially if you're willing to look at what's going on right now. What is going on in the world right now that you have an opinion on, or that your business could help make a change with regards to, or that you could potentially help solve? If you can get that out into PR, it's going to be something that is going to be featured really quickly, and it's going to help you get really, really visible and add more people to your audience in a really short space of time. And then finally, when we're talking about visibility and getting visible, and the quickest ways to do it, we do have to think about content creation. Now, a very wise mentor of mine once said, when it came to content creation, we have to look at becoming omnipresent with our audience. Now, when my mentor said this, I kind of went, ugh. Had this really horrible moment of, oh no, I don't want to do this, because I'm somebody who believes in working smarter, not harder. But when I dug into it and I thought, okay, how can I be omnipresent without actually having to be live all the time? It was really interesting to look at the kind of visibility that could be built from different platforms, depending on what content that I actually shared and what was of interest to the people who were participating on that platform. So for example, I don't believe in creating tons and tons and tons of brand new organic platform for every single platform. I think that it's a complete waste of time. And I'm a big fan of repurposing, because again, smarter, not harder, /lazy, you can call it whatever you want, I don't mind. But there are easier ways of being omnipresent across social media and across different platforms by reusing content that you already have. So in order to do that, you've got to really think about the type of content that you're actually creating, and think about how are you staying top of mind for your audience. So one of the things that I did was I looked at the different platforms that I was part of, or my primary platforms, and that's for me, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And I kind of went, okay, so what can I do with these platforms, or what do I need to do to keep me top of mind for my audience all of the time? And for me, when I looked at Instagram, the thing that was responded to most on Instagram by my audience was the behind the scenes stuff. That was where people who were identifying with that particular platform, they wanted to see things in real time. They wanted to see Instagram stories. They wanted to see what was going on with my day. They wanted to see pictures of my dog, what I was doing when I wasn't recording a podcast or writing a blog or going live in my Facebook group, for example. So for me, Instagram was very much a behind the scenes platform. And the only things that we repurpose on there are links to my blog or links to the podcast episode for that week. And the reason is that those things are automated, and therefore they're not as popular with my audience. Whereas real behind the scenes info is, and it's something that really engages people. Facebook, for example, was much more driven by opinions. So I noticed that when I started posting strong opinion pieces on my Facebook business page, I suddenly started getting much more interaction. And actually it was really, really easy to do, because all I had to do was put out my opinion about any particular element of sales, and people would always want to respond. And that really drove up the organic reach on my business page. And again, these were things that I could schedule natively. I could schedule Instagram through using Grum. I could schedule my Facebook business page using the native Facebook business page scheduler. And so actually it took no time for me. I could sit down at the beginning of every month. I could create this content. I could have it going out on an automated basis if I wanted to, if I was going on holiday, if I wanted to schedule things, if I knew I was coming up to launch time and I wanted to have congruent content going out there, I knew that I had that option. The other thing for me that came up was that groups and that my Facebook community was very much about the how-to. People wanted implementation, action, and information when it came to being part of a free Facebook community. And so for me, it was about understanding what I could do with my Facebook community regularly that would help them engage. So we started running more free trainings, lots of Facebook live trainings, more webinars, challenges, those kinds of things where people could actually take action on the information, get what they needed, learn great stuff, but also apply them to their businesses. Okay. And again, these are things that I could either schedule or I could run live depending on how I was feeling, where I was in terms of, my own plans and my own sanity in terms of time management for the month. but also it was really, really useful for my audience because it keeps me top of mind, as the sales expert. Okay. And then, of course, we had LinkedIn, where I committed to 2 to 3 times a week creating a post and making sure that it was visible by, again, primarily edutainment pieces. Okay, so things that are educational or entertaining. And that really helped push me up the newsfeed. It really helped me connect with my audience and get to know people that I probably wouldn't have otherwise on the LinkedIn feed. Again, 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes repurpose, so sometimes letting people know what's on the blog, and sometimes live content, what's going on in real time, telling people when I'm speaking at events, telling people, what's going on in the sales world, telling people what's going on in terms of industry changes, or alerting them to things that I've done. And those really are the only platforms that I use. And then I have my automated content. So I have my blog, which we repurpose out to my Facebook group, my Facebook business page, my email list, and we have this podcast. And again, the podcast gets sent out to my Facebook business page, it gets sent out to my Instagram page, and it gets sent out to my email list so that people can catch up with any episodes that they've missed. And what that does is it skyrockets visibility, because not only are we leveraging the platforms for the reach that we have on there, but also we're encouraging new audiences. Lots of people, for example, have been kind enough to share this podcast with others that they think might benefit from listening. Lots of people will often forward on the emails that we write each week of the kind of weekly roundup of my content, because they think it will be interesting to one of their peers or somebody in another business, and they think it's going to be useful to them. So we get lots and lots of recommendations, lots and lots of referrals, and therefore the visibility in my business grows a lot quicker because we're asking people to share things that we think are good. We're asking people to share good content. We're asking people to share things that are genuinely valuable. We're not trying to spend tons and tons of money in cold advertising to get cold leads. Instead, we're really focusing on nurturing our existing audience and staying top of mind with content that makes a difference, that's interesting, that's fun, that's unique, and that helps them learn something, or helps them be educated around an issue, or helps them be entertained by something. So if you're ever stuck for content, think about what will entertain my audience, what will benefit my audience, what will show my audience the behind the scenes of how I operate. What would I go to war for? What is a big myth or lie in my industry that I really want to overcome? What's something that's controversial that I can tell my community about that I really want to protect them from, or I really want them to know about so that they can make an informed decision? What's something that's actionable that I can give my community today? What's an actionable tip or trick or technique that they can use to really make a difference in whatever's going on for them this week? And then what's motivational or inspirational? What content am I producing that will motivate my audience to do bigger and better things? What's going to inspire them to take action today? That's going to ask them to implement or do something that might be very out of their comfort zone. So when you're thinking about visibility, you don't just have to go down the normal routes of, okay, I'm going to go and submit another pitch for another podcast, or I'm going to go and submit another pitch for another magazine, or I'm going to go and join a telesummit or a giveaway. You can really think about the categories, really think about, do I want to leverage my network and get warm leads? Can I ask my audience for referrals? Can I do anything for influencers where I can get referrals? Do I need to look at PR? Do I need to look at a long-term game in terms of getting published in 3 months' time if you've got a specific offer, especially around the holidays? Or is there something going on in the news right now that's massively topical that I could contribute on, that I could provide a soundbite on and get instantly onto television or interviewed about? And then finally, think about your content. Are you being omnipresent? Are you actually repurposing your content in the best way possible? Are you being truly present on 1 to 3 platforms, or are you trying to spread yourself too thin and create tons of content for tons and tons of different places? Have a think and let me know. And, really think about what methods you're going to choose to get yourself super visible and the kind of content that you want to be creating to make sure that your audience gets the most value from you, but also so that you stay top of mind, so that you become really visible, you create that engaged, diehard tribe that you're looking for, and that you make as many sales as possible. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button and leave a review. And if you're thinking, actually, Jess, I'm walking away from this episode and I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do and I want to remember those questions for later, make sure that you download our latest freebie for the podcast, for podcast listeners only, which are the cheat sheets from every episode. So if you want downloadable PDF guides, you can find the questions I'm asking on each podcast. You can take action on them and fill in the cheat sheets to really make a difference to your business. You can go into the show notes, you can download that, you'll get access to a special members only portal, and you can go and look at all of the key points from every single podcast episode. How cool is that? I will see you back here on Friday for another deep dive episode with an amazing entrepreneur. Have an awesome week.